back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today I'm at Star Fisheries, and in today's episode we're going to be focusing on the Veiltail Goldfish. Now, I haven't actually covered any videos on the Veiltail Goldfish in nearly 3 years of filming, so I thought it would be great to have a little close look at this fish and this variety of fancy goldfish and do a sort of species profile on it. Now, over there is the Veiltail pond here at Star Fisheries. I'm going to be putting some of the Veiltails within the bowl, and we can also have a look at some of them in the viewing tank as well. Have a look at what sets them apart from different fancies, such as the Ryukin, and have a close look at the different quality traits and maybe some of the positives and negatives about this variety. So I'm going to head over to the pond now and let's check them out. Right behind me we have our pond of Veiltails, and then just to the left I believe we have some Joaquin and some Jikin as well. Now, I have done a video on Joaquin and Jikin in the past, so make sure to go and check them out. But in today's video we're going to be focusing on these Veiltails here. Now, I would say the majority of these are around the 3-inch in length, and I believe all of them are calico. I think there might be a couple of sort of red and whites or reds in there as well. Let's get a few in the viewing bowl and let's take a close look at them and see what this interesting variety has to show us.
A few moments later.
As you can see, we now have a selection of Veiltails within the bowl. Now, we've got some red and whites, we've also got some calico fish as well. Now, it is argued that the Veiltail was developed in the UK, and it is also argued that it was developed in the US, otherwise known as the Philadelphian Veiltail. But generally, Veiltails originating in the UK were produced around 70 years ago, maybe a little bit sooner, and the true Veiltail is arguably produced in the UK, and the Philadelphian Veiltail is slightly different. Now, as you'll see with all of the fish in the bowl here, they all have really long caudal fins, or otherwise known as their tails, and that has a real nice veil to it. Generally, the tail can be similarly described as a sort of cloak-like fashion, and generally the dorsal fins are also really high in comparison to other types of fancy goldfish. Now, most of these fish will either come in a nacreous calico form, metallic red and white, and occasionally you can get other metallic strains like a white or a silver, but this is quite a rare variety, not one that's seen very often, so this is actually quite a nice selection of fish to be able to go through. So now we've had a look at these from the top view in the viewing bowl, and I had a close look at the different colorations we have. Let's put some of these guys into a viewing tank so we can actually see them from the side view, where I assume most of you would keep your Veiltail goldfish or your goldfish in general. Now, I believe you can keep these in outdoor ponds as long as the water doesn't get too cold, so they are quite a hardy variety of fancy. But let's go and take a look at them from the side view. So I've now got the Veiltails in the viewing tank, and we do have the afternoon sun beaming through the window onto them, so hopefully their colours will look quite nice and in the natural light as well. So I'm just going to take a close look at them. Let's have a close look at each individual fish, a close look at the quality traits each fish has, and then we can also speak a little bit about their heritage and sort of breeding and where the Veiltail goldfish has come from. So let's take a close look and check them out. So as you can see, I've now put them into the tank for a little side view. Now, you will see some of them have a slightly shorter, more Ryukin-esque look to them, and then others also have much longer fins and more of that Veiltail fin to them. Now, I think I previously mentioned all of these fish are around the 2 to 3 inch size. I think there's a few slightly larger, around 3 to 4 inch, but you can see we've got a range of different colors and also a different range of qualities as well. Now, the fish with much longer tails are definitely of a higher quality, and these fish are still produced in small numbers. Now, when I spoke previously saying about the Philadelphian Veiltail, there is comments and mentions that this fish actually died out in America, and the UK variation is sort of the true one that still is around. But obviously there is different opinions to this. So supposedly this strain of fish has actually come from a telescope-eyed goldfish, and then it has been obviously bred with different other variations. Now it also has that Ryukin-esque to it, so I assume some sort of cross between a Ryukin and a telescope-eyed goldfish was what formed this fish originally. You can see that we've got really high dorsal fins, and the deportment on all of the fins on these fish is absolutely great and fabulous to see. They're holding those fins really nicely. We've got the super high dorsal fin. We've all got nice splits in the tail as well, which is what we would generally look for. So looking at a higher quality fish, we want to make sure that fish has a slightly shorter, stubbier, balloon-like body, and generally the depth of the body should be at least 2/3 of the length of the body. So these are reasonably round fish in the body shape, but they are a little bit longer than they are tall. Now the tail should be long and flowing. Generally the tails are mostly translucent and quite delicate looking, and these should be at least 3/4 of the length of the body, but having a longer tail or longer caudal fin is desirable as well. Now as mentioned, the dorsal fins are single, very tall compared to other fancy varieties, and they should have a nice divide in that caudal fin. Now, my opinion on these, well, I think they are quite similar to the Ryukin, and they're also quite similar to a fantail. Now, this is just my opinion. This is no sort of facts, so to say. I think they're a really nice, elegant fish. They're also really hardy fish as well that do well in ponds. I feel like they are quite a pretty fish to look at, especially in the aquarium, but they also have a nice presence from the top down view that you would generally see in a pond that we saw previously in the viewing bowl. Now we've got a nice mix of colors here. Looks like we've got a sort of Kirin, we've got the calico, and we've got the red and whites as well. Very young fish, and these should develop into, generally these should get to 5-6 inches quite comfortably, maybe a little bit longer if you're lucky, but I would say the adult Veiltail normally maxes out at around that sort of 6-inch range. Now, some of you may argue that a few of the fish in the viewing tank aren't true or proper Veiltails, and that is because we have a few different grades, and I believe there potentially might be a couple of Ryukins mixed in with these guys, but they should all be from that Veiltail range. And you'll also notice on the higher quality specimens, as I mentioned previously, we have much more elongation to the tail. Those fins are flowing really nicely, and all of the fins are a little bit more extended. The pectoral fins, the ventral fins, the caudal fins, the dorsal fins, a little bit more extended than you would see on your typical fancy goldfish. So that is it for the close-ups on the Veiltail. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about what they were bred from, when they were bred, and just a little bit more about this species profile. A very interesting fish, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to film them. That is it for today's video on the Veiltail Goldfish. Hopefully you found it interesting seeing this variety, seeing the different colour patterns, the shapes of the tail, which really makes this fish, and learning a little bit about them. If you do have any questions, please leave those down below, and if you have any video suggestions on maybe what I should record in the future, then let me know down below. But that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.